Dear friends, the DigiU ecosystem is online. Welcome, everybody. Today, our webinars will give me a possibility to start sharing, explaining to you how our Dubai trip was and what system it has in the entire DigiU system. And our first part, I'm going to talk about the trip to Dubai. Why did we go there? What did we do there? Where should we pay attention to? And then the second part of the webinar will be our question and answer sessions. We start as usual with the YouTube questions from the Russian audience and then move to other partners. So the more interesting are your questions, the higher is the chance that I'm gonna answer it throughout this webinar. So let's start. Once again, welcome everybody. As you all know, all our founders visited Dubai at the end of March. We've been preparing to this trip since the end of December because we understand that we are at a particular stage of our project development, which ultimately would lead us to certain meetings and negotiations. And it was our plan to have it in March. And as you see, it did happen in March. We had several goals for this trip. Conceptually, there are three goals. First, participation in international exhibitions and summits in Dubai at that time. Second, important meetings and negotiations. And the third big goal, strategic session of the DigiU founders. And now let me try to talk a little bit more about each of the goals and bring you deeper to the context. As you know, Ava is at the high stage of readiness. We are at the final stage of testing and getting ready to launch it. So we've got invitations to exhibitions because it's a large scale, very interesting infrastructure project which attracts attention from large players all over the world. So from 13th to 20th of March, there were two important exhibitions in Dubai. First is Wow Summit, and the second one was the ABC Summit, and the Ava stand was at both summits. Various people, investors came to us, partner agreements were completed. So ultimately, both exhibitions, both events were very successful. And the investment as part of this financing round brought us various partner relationship. And you are able to learn a little bit more about it in Ava social media, where information will be presented exactly in the form as it should be presented. Second important part of this meeting was essential negotiations with large players on the market of artificial intelligence, blockchain, and venture funds. Of course, I cannot give that many details simply because that's the format of negotiations. There have been no video recordings or something like this. Everything will be published whenever the arrangement will be reached and it will be possible to publish it. Let me just tell you that we represent both Ava DigiU system and particular solutions. So in 99% of our negotiations, we received absolutely excited response and really good recommendations and attitude from the pretty large players of this market. If you remember our previous webinars and who were mentioned, it's exactly this level. So ultimately, there is a very positive effect that we've achieved from the conferences and from our trip in general. So further on, the consequences of these conferences will be unrolling throughout the entire year, and you'll see how we're building relationship with venture funds and what technological solutions are being implemented in particular projects of the ecosystem. It will not always be the DigiU ecosystem. There'll be some other systems. So everything ultimately is very, very positive, and we'll get the actual feedback from those people who've been on the market for dozens of years, who shape this market, who are the trend setters, and who do know it's much deeper, who see it's much faster than we are. However good are we as professionals, but we simply haven't been in this market for long enough compared to those players. So every meeting and every possibility to share, to discuss the ideas, and you understand that, the same idea can be presented differently at different meetings. And it's possible to see it from different angles. It's possible to see different sides of it. So it's a really good training. We've really done a very good job. In my opinion, one of the most important strategically element of this trip was our strategic session. And now I'm going to focus on it, what it has led to. So what does it mean, first of all, a strategic session of the DigiU ecosystem? Why it is a strategic tool, why we use it, and why we were able to achieve such results in our context, why we do it regularly. Well, strategic session, in this case, it's an event for the project founders when they create short-term, middle-term, and long-term strategy for the company. It typically takes several days with some breaks, but very deep immersion in the subject. We had quite a number of goals for this strategic session. Just for you to understand, at such events, or such type of events, in 2006, we've created the DigiU idea, and then later we understood how we're going to implement it right in such strategic session. And then another strategic session gave us the DigiU Wealth, and would generate us a monthly profit with pretty nice dividends. Another strategic session allowed us to create and crystallize the ideas of cross-chain product and AVA ultimately. So all such breakthrough ideas, solutions, approaches were born exactly through this process of strategic session. But this one, for the first time, took place abroad, outside of Russia, in Dubai, a global center of technologies, innovation, modern business, cryptocurrency. So everything innovative is now concentrated exactly in these regions. And of course, it has its own footprint. It does affect the context of our strategic session. Typically, at such events, we try to depict the world from the scratch, like from a really empty white paper. We'll look at this and we'll see what can we do in the modern world with those technologies and capabilities that we have in our system. So we'll build up a certain forecast. And you can see that our forecast is pretty accurate. In 2019, we were one of the first to develop the concept of a digital personality. And now the world has come up to understanding that the large companies, they develop their own digital universe with digital avatars and with exactly the same approaches that we embedded in our system back in 2019. So it's such a space where the project founders are engaged in a collective brain. You know that we have several founders of our project, and each one is responsible for a particular area. Petr for artificial intelligence, Boris for blockchain, Sergey for finances, financial products, so Alexander, strategic linking of all these areas and building up the strategy. Myself, I engaged everybody in those ideas, and we all need to understand how these things would work in a synchronized manner so that it will be mutually reinforcing and enable disseminations throughout the world as fast as possible. And sometimes, thinking together, we came to a conclusion that there are people who are really keen on a particular idea, they have innovations, they have money, so there are always opportunities for fulfilled ideas, regardless of how ambitious they are. So as a result of this strategic session, we've been able to crystallize the goals. It's the point of every session. The main team, the most important players of the team are focused on the main ideas, which take into account what have already been done, the surroundings, the environment that we have now in the world, and the trends that we plan to further develop. So all this in combination led to clear understanding for each member of our team how the area of their responsibility will be developed, how they are interlinked with each other, and where the DigiU system will be going in the next 3 to 5 years. Why this period, 3 to 5 years? Because we all see that the world is changing rapidly, and what seems to be impossible just some time ago, now it is pretty much a reality. So our strategy is in this format, 3 to 5 years, which implies certain adjustment for further successful development. So each of the founders recorded a video. When we have this video session, we synchronized our videos. We understood our approaches, how to synchronize them. We saw the trends and how the DigiU system will be implemented so that at some point will be at the very forefront of technological development and solutions in artificial intelligence, blockchain, and disseminating, promoting those ideas across the world. And it's exactly where we want to be. So each of our founders recorded a short video showing how he sees this world and our place in it. And it all is under the umbrella of the digital personality, because we understand that our idea that we embedded in the project in 2019, it is still very pressing, very important, and it's becoming increasingly more and more important. So in April, we'll be talking about it step by step. We'll look at different areas like what's happening with artificial intelligence and where it's going in the next 3 to 5 years, what's happening with the blockchain and where it's going in the next 3 to 5 years, what's the financial side of DigiU, its capitalization and new trend, and the development strategy. Everything, all these aspects will be outlined in a form clear and understandable to our audience, because we do understand, it is pretty complex, all those issues, and we look pretty far. So not everything is easy to comprehend. That is why we'll be using very simple language, very comfortable for understanding by our audience. So that's what we're gonna do in April. We're gonna talk about it, outline it, and in May, we'll show you an updated chapter of our concept, showing where we are on this path that we announced in 2019 and what are the next stages forward, what requires our attention. Of course, all those events that are happening now, that have happened recently, since 2020, they focused our attention on development. We went deeper to the technological area so that we see what's happening with in the field of AVA, predictive analytics. Of course, now it's obvious that this year will very much focus on achieving a balance in respect to our partner community. We'll see certain gap. We see that partners all over the world, they are awaiting meetings with us, visits to the headquarters, some big offline events, and a transition to a brand new level of partner interaction. All this awaits us this year. With regard to the events that would happen very soon, it's presenting an updated roadmap, new dividend payments in June 2022. So get ready to the news, get ready to the trends, get ready to new breakthrough ideas, and get ready to be introduced to the vision of the DigiU founders. So these were our goals for the trip to Dubai, and each of them were achieved 100%. And now let's proceed to the questions. Let's look first of all at the Russian speaking segment, and then we'll move to the foreign segments. Several questions from the Russian segments. One is about the funds, the scope, the volume of funds in the DigiU Wealth, and it's a 7-digit figure in dollars. In view of the exchange rate fluctuations, I would say around 4 millions in view of the all monthly fluctuations, input output. We'll see all the preconditions that this amount will be increased significantly in the near future. It is associated, first of all, with the events that take place now in the world, that people are in even more pressing need of an alternative financial system. And of course, they are turning to cryptocurrency. DigiU Wealth offer risk-free way to make money with really good interest in dollars. So we'll see that there is a growing attention. You know how it happened? Product is launched, and then there is a stage of an audience inflow. People keep asking questions, then it's stabilized, and then people start using products. So now, since the beginning of March, we register an incredible growth of the new audience. And the questions show us that people become even more and more aware of this. And the questions that we're getting now are different from that stage when we just launched the project. The audience that come to us now will see that they think differently, different scope, different figures. And for example, they ask this question: so why just the entry threshold is that low? Why $500 was possible to invest several dozen $1,000? There are the friends that also want to do it with that. So to some extent, we perhaps will repack the wealth product to make it more clear for the audience, because it's always was a product for everybody who understands it. They've always been using it. For those who found it difficult, it was a product that required certain entry. What is the potential profit of AVA? Here, I'd like to mention that AVA, it's a large infrastructure project, and Boris repeatedly mentioned, and we do say to all funds investors, we not just say it, we show it, we show what's done, that it's a certain industry standard, and the simplest way to evaluate the profit is, try to calculate capitalization of all blockchains. There are quite enough. Ether, Bitcoin, Polkadot. So you see blockchain, calculate capitalization, and then imagine what would happen if these blockchains are combined, and the tool to combine them will be AVA. So there's trans-logistic infrastructure, which enables to transmit liquidity and any data. So try to calculate capitalizations, dozens, hundreds, billions of dollars. So now all the forces are concentrated on entering the net because we understand that the world needs this project, and that one of the meetings with the funds, we tried to understand the idea, and the audience liked it. We tried to explain what does mean AVA. It's kind of a SWIFT. It's a system of interaction with all transactions in all blockchains. What kind of capitalization can be dozens and hundreds of millions of dollars capitalization and profit? And for you to understand it better, you can get to the Ava DeFi site and download, and everything will be explained. Another question: when the company shares will not be sold? I always answer these questions and I add figures. Overall, we have 200 billion securities of DigiU system. So 10% is 20 billion. Crowd investment is one of the ways to finance our development. Apart from financing, it also has plenty of advantages. The audience, promotion, partners. So out of 20 billion allocated for crowd investments, now less than 1% was fulfilled. So we are getting close to 1% of securities. So at the moment, there is no questions about suspending sales, because this, what it gave us, it is efficient. It continues being efficient as a method. And of course, our rule is to strengthen what is already strong. So in the next few months, in the foreseeable future, you are not gonna hear anything like this. So you can increase your portfolio and you can work with investments. But of course, we will be decreasing free bonuses. The value of our shares, the value of our securities will be going up. When shall we expect new products and projects? This year, we will present several our developments. Mainnet will be one of the important indicators of the efficiency of the entire system. So follow the news. What do you think about the breach as an AVA competitor? Well, of course, AVA is not the only project involved in cross-chain. But it would probably be incorrect to explain here what I think about this project, because I understand clearly if there are competitors, it means that there is demand for such kind of projects. And we clearly understand that to what extent AVA is an infrastructure project and to what extent is a very comprehensive project. So in this context, there are very few competitors. There are competitors who are getting ready or are at the same stage of readiness, but I am not an expert in that particular area. So if you are interested, particularly in the breach, so you should ask this question to a specialist in this field. Another question: crypto fund will be separately from the DigiU. If it means our product about which we are contemplating, it's a little bit difficult to say that it's going to be separate from DigiU, and here we'll have to wait a little bit. Next week, there'll be an interview with Alexander. It was recorded prior to we went to Dubai, and now it's being translated to all major languages of our project. So if I'm not mistaken, next week it will be released, and it gives detailed explanation of the project, in what form it gonna be, what will be the timing, what will be the target audience. So just you wait a little bit. Just wait for the interview. Hi, Alexey. Briefly, how would you explain AFA, how it can be sold and promoted informationally? In a couple of words, briefly, I wouldn't dare to explain it, but let me try. Okay, it's kind of a Swift, and it's maybe 1/10, maybe even 1/50th of the entire AVA infrastructure. So if we talk as to how something should be sold, we always need to understand first what's the target audience. And you play from the needs of this audience, and you talk to this audience using the language that it understands. So if you talk to a person who is really abreast, understands pretty well things about cryptocurrency, so in this case, you can just show white sheet of paper, and the person would understand everything. This is the team technological solution, and there is no need for you to sell anything, because most probably the person will already know a lot about this project and will say thank you so much to you, and will go and get ready to start. If you are not a DeFi expert at the moment, then I would recommend to try to understand things at a very basic level. Do not try to cover everything simultaneously. Sell the DigiU system. It's the most simple, the most understandable, and then the person gets some kind of a prepared place where we have all information. We have enormous number of webinars, a lot of content that we've prepared specially to make sure that when people get into this new digital world, people feel them comfortable, because there is a certain period of adaptation. You know, when you dive into cold water and you want to learn how to swim, typically it's the tragic outcome. But if you go step by step, you train yourself, you prepare yourself to the cold temperatures, then gradually you become a person who can swim in the middle of winter in an ice cold water. So it's the same analogy. The AVA product sells itself very nicely. 300,000 persons in the community. It's not a coincidence. It means good understanding of the market and how to work with the market, the demand, the needs for this product. So we don't have at the moment such a task that we need to sell just AVA. AVA really fulfills its function. And after mainnet, it will really make a tremendous noise all over the world. And it will show that we are at the forefront situation. And that would be the most important. Next question, how to start working in your new venture fund? Well, if you mean that our venture fund should support a particular project, there are very simple communication channels, like approach the support service, or you can write to me in the chat or to anybody and just suggest something. That's the most efficient way of communication. We always mention it. So you have an idea, write to the support service, and your ticket will never be lost. If you write to somebody like one of our founders, of course, there are tons of chats, so something can be lost. So it's better to go through the support service if you have an idea. So just if there is anything within the field of our interests, like blockchain, artificial intelligence, and you have this idea, please tell us about it, and we'll suggest a certain format how to proceed. But be assured, we'll give you feedback, and if necessary, if there is a desire from the side, then of course we'll show you the way forward. When new projects will be added, because the dividends are too small at the moment? Well, Alexey Sarapashnikov asked this question. And here, you know what? You have to go to the very beginning of these webinars, and you also have to listen to a few more webinars. As I said, Ava is at the high stage of readiness. After mainnet is ready, that's going to be a project that will be the industry standard. In terms of predictive analytics, also there is a lot of work. But what is important? Not just the project. What is important that they work, they generate profit, and they are in demand. So that is why, in particular, we focus on AVA. And of course, we're not talking about just commercial sales. There is, of course, development in other areas, research and development, and it will take a particular time to proceed to commercialization. So just follow our news. Now let's move to other chats. Okay, there are questions about Ava. There are also questions about different concepts, terms associated to Ava. Please get to the Ava chat and ask these questions there. Here we talk about the DigiU ecosystem. We talk to investors, partners, DigiU ecosystem leaders in Ava. It's just part of our communities, because some of our communities are testers or somebody else, and they understand just something. So here, I'm not going very deep in such webinars. For a deeper discussion on particular topics, for example, we have Boris who come and share some ideas, and there are very, very professional communication channels in Ava chat. And if you go there, there might be several thousand messages, and everybody can find an answer. It's an ideal communication, so everyone will find an answer. Go there for such questions. You mentioned that the number of DigiU shares will be equal to the number of tokens. So when we're gonna have, well, I've never said anything like this. 1-to-1, no, never. You know, even logically, it's difficult to imagine that I can make such a statement. Because the number of AVA tokens is 1 billion. The number of DigiU securities is 200 billions. How can we talk about 1-to-1 ratio? What we talked about, however, is that at some point there's gonna be a snapshot which will fix the number of DigiU shares for which distribution of AVA token is expected in a particular ratio. But we also said that there are plenty of different ways, and further on we're going to talk about it in more details, how these tokens can be allocated, how it is better to sell them, etc., etc. Please follow our news. We're going to go into details explaining those methods, and we're going to show which options are most advantages for our community. But if you're now interested in Ava talking, go to the chats, go to the community and get more information there. That's the best way. I cannot transfer our money from my personal account to the partner account. Right. If there are any difficulties with regard to transferring money and you are sure that everything is done correctly, just reload your computer and maybe everything will be easy. However, if there are difficulties, you can also go to the support service, ask questions, but typically there are no global issues with that. And we recently got very good feedback how our service work. But what is great that the interest of the DigiU product is going up, and new people join us, and the feedback is how cool, how great is your support system, because you intend to answer every question. If you don't answer, then you come back always, you apologize. So please do not hesitate. Get to these guys from the support service and communicate. Thank you for your questions. That's what written in the chat. And I do believe that questions is something which drive us forward. So if you ask questions, it means you're moving forward. When I can hear your questions and I can see how can we go forward. That's why I like, and I'm gonna answer your questions. How the current political situation affect the work with large venture fund? Good question. Frankly, there are funds which are affected and there are funds which are not affected. We work, funds are different. There are funds where particular capitals from particular countries are concentrated. There are funds where particular persons are involved and the current situation affects them. Or let's put it like this. There are funds that want to work with us regardless of anything, and they understand that we are an international company. We are registered in Europe, and everything is pretty clear with us in the legal terms. Our team is international, and we repeatedly emphasized it. The AVA, the DigiU team is international. We have programmers, we have marketing, we have any specialist who are, it's a distributed team across different countries. And it was the right solution some time ago, and it's even more right solution in the current situation. So we position ourselves very correctly, and we negotiate in a very right manner. At the very beginning, when the situation burst out, then some impact was noticeable. But with the right efforts, it can be neutralized. And AVA is at a high stage of readiness. And now we already see that the number of offers going up, and up. When large funds approach us, everybody wants to have such a large infrastructure project in their portfolio. So that's great. And we can choose the funds with which we would like to cooperate. We look at the capital that they accumulate, the people who work there, and based on it, we're gonna make decision whether we're gonna take this money, just to make sure that everything will be okay and they don't gonna play some bad joke with us. Alexander talks a lot about it. So next week, there's gonna be an interview with him. Just you wait a little bit. Dear friends, I've shared all major information about our trip to Dubai, and throughout April, we're gonna give you more and more details on each area. And the only thing that I'd like to wish you that today is the final day with regard to the bonuses for buying securities. So I highly recommend for those who haven't done it, do it today, because the offer that is now, it's not gonna be anymore. So for those who haven't got dividends, as I mentioned, the next one will be in June, and your investments can bring the first dividends already in June. Well, thank you so much for the webinars. Thank you very much for your questions. Take care.